should have been a cowboy. I should have learned to rope and ride.
Felipe, good morning. You were back on Alberta time.
That's right, buddy. Good morning. Happy to be back in Canada. It's beautiful weather here. Unbelievable. I was not expecting it at all.
Really? What kind of temps are you looking at?
We're talking 11 degrees this week, highs of 11, low of like 2. So
Oh, so it's just like dead brown grass everywhere and
dead
mud
brown
and
grass. That's exactly what it
dude,
is.
March in Alberta, like I do like the winter, minus the crazy cold snaps, obviously, but like
Yes, sir.
just the blanket of white, the fresh powder, the
Yeah.
blue clear skies on a nice winter day, like it's so beautiful. And then you get
Yes, sir.
March Alberta, where it's
Oh,
just dead everything still and mud and gross.
yeah. A lot of browns. A lot of browns, that's for sure. But it's nice. It means that, guess what? Summer's coming right
Wasn't
around the
it?
corner, bro.
It was officially the first day of spring last week, wasn't
Officially, yeah, yes,
it?
it was. Yes, it was. It definitely was the 21st of March. Is that
Mm,
correct?
I think so. Blackjack.
But yeah, buddy, I'm so excited. Summer's around the corner. Weather's getting nice back in Canada. You had a big roping the past weekend. How did it go?
Not great for me. It was a great day for the rig. We did have young Cash Ewell. He picked up some money out of that 9.5, made the short round.
Oh,
But unfortunately for Grady and I, we showed up there and we're just donators. We donated some cash money, and
sometimes you got to donate, bro. That's just a part of the yin and the yang of
that's a
roping.
part of the ecosystem, dude. Because you know what? Sometimes, yeah, you gotta just keep feeding the pocket of the boys, right? And it eventually comes back to you. But nah, horse worked good. I did turn a couple good cattle, just couldn't get the chips to fall in my court, but that's okay.
That's okay, buddy. Next time you'll get them next time. When do you guys head back?
We are actually, so today is the 24th. This
Yeah,
episode will come out here in a couple weeks, but today's the 24th. We are going to leave this coming Saturday. We're going to take 2 days to get back to Fort Collins. We're going to go to Albuquerque, which is roughly 7-ish hours. Stop there
nice.
for the night, and then it's another roughly 7 hours to Fort Collins from there. Because that's a big day, dude. Going 14, 15 hours straight. Then
Oh,
you like, it's a big day. And we did it coming
yeah,
down here, but I mean, you're super excited to get down to Arizona, get down and set up. But
yeah.
we're gonna kind of take it easy back to Fort Collins, and then I fly home to Calgary on the 2nd of April.
2nd of April. So are you here for more than 24 hours? Because you're going to Saskatoon, aren't you?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so I'll head out to Saskatoon for the 4th. I'll do that gig out there, and then I do need to go back to Denver to pick up my truck, the bumper pull, 2 horses, get them up to Berta. So I'll be home probably like second week of April.
Okay, perfect. Right when I leave.
That's so classic, isn't it?
I always check your schedule without you knowing, just make sure I'm not here when
Yeah, who's
you're
feeding
back.
you my information so you're just conveniently
Oh,
gone?
your dad and I have a WhatsApp group. It just keeps me constantly checked on your dates. Oh, that's unfortunate, but I'll see you. Maybe on the 3rd, April 3rd, you're here in Alberta. You have one
Mm-hmm.
day.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, maybe we can work that out. We can grab some cervezas.
That'd be good.
Okay, well, we'll talk about it. Well, today, buddy, we have a awesome guest. We seem to be on the vibes of cowgirls and women lately, eh? I was
Mm-hmm.
thinking back to back, a lot of women on the show. Do you want to take the reins on this one? Who are we interviewing today?
Absolutely. We got a pretty fun guest today. You surprised me with this one. Courtney Dehoff, dude. And when I said Courtney Dehoff in the RV the other day, Tiger's smile lit right up. She actually turned me on to this lady a while ago, I guess. I mean, she's kind of known for dressing up fancy in amok stalls and just being a fancy lady cowgirl, and
Yes,
then looking
sir.
into her, man, holy smokes, does she got quite the resume. So I'm super excited you were able to land her for us to chat with today, and she's gonna be a great hang, I think.
Oh, she's gonna be amazing. She's an awesome woman. Let's get at it. And I love her last name, like the Hoff. You
Dehoff.
can't fail with that freaking last name, bro.
Hmm. And if you say it with an Italian accent, the half,
The
right?
Hoff.
I feel like I'm coming to get like a finger clubbed off or something for not paying up.
Yeah, exactly, right? Straight up mobster. All right, without further ado, let's get to Courtney Dehoff.
Hi.
Good morning. Thank you so much for making the time to be on the show, Court. How are you?
Yeah, thanks for having me. I'm good. How are you guys?
Do
Oh,
great.
we're good. We're good. I think we're maybe not as tired as you. You just came back from Australia. I'm so sorry. I'm like, get on the podcast right now.
No
How are
worries.
you? How are you feeling? Have you been getting some rest?
Yeah, I feel pretty good. The jet lag hasn't been as bad this trip. I went in July, last summer and it was a little bit rough, but this one's not been too bad. And I've just been going. So maybe I'll crash at some point, but it's been.
Well, I feel like you've just been going since you were born. You're a go-getter. You wear a million hats.
Yeah.
Cowboy Cole and I were just talking before you came on. Like you've done so much in your young life. I'm super excited to chat with you. But first, I want to know what were you doing in Australia? It sounded like an amazing trip. But tell our listeners here what you're up to down under.
Yeah, for sure. So in last summer, I had the opportunity to go to Tamworth for the NCHA for charity in Australia. So NCHA Australia brought me out, and they put on this really cool women's event that I spoke at, and we had a dinner, and it was this really really lovely event. And then I stayed and did 8 days at the show, and so I did interviews and just all the same things that I do here in the States, but over there in Tamworth. And so it was just so much fun, but they sort of like picked out I found out later they sort of not forced, but that's the joke that the family shares. They picked out this really great family to like host me, and my best friend went with me because I was going over there by myself, and I knew I had like this host family, and I was like, I don't know these people. I better bring somebody with me. So this family hosted us, Hugh and Alice of Snake Creek Cattle, and we just fell in love with them. I mean, they became our family, and so they threw this idea out maybe like 4 months ago. They're like, hey, what if we brought you back and we want to like bring in a videographer and we want to host a big event at our place? And they have this beautiful, beautiful farm in the Southern Highlands. And they put on this really cool event that was designed, it was everything from like horsemanship. They brought in a great cutting horse trainer, a reiner. They had a fashion show. I spoke. It was all on horseback. So we did like this really cool sort of event just to show that like Texas, Australia, the US, Australia, cowboy culture is the same no matter where you are in the world, right? Like it looks different sometimes, but the values are the same. And so we called it Dallas Down Under, and we just had the best time. And we were there for 3 weeks, just shooting content and hosting that event. And it was so much fun.
The
Wow.
DDU.
Yeah, there you go.
Wow, Cole, did you get the invite for this event? Because I think mine didn't come in the mail, Court.
Next
Yeah.
time you can come for the next round.
Oh man, that sounds epic. You're always at epic events. I just want to say, by the way, FYI, the Southern Highlands sounds like something out of Lord of the Rings. Like I've never been there, but I would love to go.
Yeah, it's so interesting. The Southern Highlands is like this little pocket in New South Wales, about an hour and a half from Sydney. So like we fly into Sydney, but it's not your like quintessential. It doesn't look like the bush, right? And it's not the bush. It's beautiful rolling hills. It's like lush green grass. It was so beautiful. They'd had so much rain while we were there. And people kept messaging me and they're like, oh my God, we had no idea that Australia looks like this. I'm like, well, it doesn't. I'm like, the Southern Highlands does, but Australia as a whole doesn't look like this. But yeah, it's a really cool spot. You could definitely shoot some Lord of the Rings scenes there. I'm sure you and Alice would be happy to host.
Well, I'm definitely the right height if we need to get some Frodo takes or anything. How much time have you spent in Australia, that Southern Highlands area? Is that kind of the place you've been, or have you been quite a few spots in Australia?
Yeah, it's funny. We did the typical sort of American, never having been to Australia. We had grand plans. My best friend Alex and I were like, we're gonna go, we're gonna just travel the coast of Australia, not realizing that Australia is as big, if not bigger, than the United States. So we have seen so much and we have done so much and we have traveled so much. I mean, I felt like we've spent hours traveling up and down the roads in that area. And when you look at the map, I mean, it is like a pinprick is all we've seen. And we've seen so much from the bush to, the Southern Highlands to Tamworth, different horse operations. We've met so many incredible people. But yeah, we've basically seen nothing and we feel like we've seen everything. And that's what's cool about Australia. It's so diverse and it's huge. So I definitely need to go back.
Yeah, it's definitely one of the countries on my bucket list. It seems like such a beautiful place, not only for the beaches, the nature, but Western heritage is huge in Australia, right? We have some amazing bronc riders, bull riders, they're very handy cowboys. How do you compare what you saw down there with what we're used to here in North America when we talk about ranching and ag?
Yeah, for sure. That's a great question. There's so many similarities. I think the United States and Australia are more similar than they are alike. Like I said, the values, the mindset, that is all the same. And that's what I love about cowboy and cowgirl culture, right? No matter, I mean, you guys know, no matter where we're from in the world, no matter where we were born, what our passport says, that sort of bond is there, right? It's always there. It's something that's sort of inside of you. And so that is absolutely prevalent, in Australia, everyone we met. And what's really cool about the Southern Highlands and Hugh and Alice specifically, they're really great at curating like dinner parties and bringing in people that live in that area, racehorse royalty. I mean, we've had dinner with a lovely French woman, Karen, who we just adore, who is also in the racehorse industry. Then you've got the Cutters, you've got the Western. And so we bring all of these people together who do have different backgrounds, but then we sit at the dinner table and like they want to know about the cutting and we want to know about the racehorse business. And it's like this beautiful thing that just shows that like that culture really transcends borders. But I think there's a lot of similarities. Now, I say that with my viewpoint again being very small because we did a muster and they run Wagyu crosses on their farm. They call it a farm, not a ranch. They don't call it a station because it's a little bit smaller. So I think when you get out to like the outback, the Northern Territory, I think that's a different ball game. So I haven't really experienced that, but I do. I have a lot of followers even that are in the Northern Territory or are on a station in the outback and. So I feel like, again, even though the day-to-day operations might look completely different than like, what my family's doing in Kansas or what we're doing here in Texas, those sort of similarities are there. And I think that's what's so cool about, the cowboy cowgirl community.
Yeah, I couldn't agree anymore. I think if you wear a cowboy hat anywhere you go, the right people are going to find you. I think you walk into a room with a cowboy hat on and you gain kind of a natural respect of the room. And if you don't, well, then that person hasn't ever had to cross paths with what I would call a real one.
Yeah. Yeah.
But no, that's very cool. And to bring all the worlds together, Felipe and I were actually kind of talking beforehand too. Sometimes in our Western world, we can get caught with the idea of if you are doing something different or a little bit outside the bubble, well,
Oh
it's either
yeah.
you're one of us or none of us type thing.
Yeah.
And that's just so garbage because to be multifaceted and to walk different paths and to bring those lessons into our world, we're gonna do nothing but grow when you do something like that.
Yeah, yeah, I agree. I mean, my entire brand is built around that and sort of dismantling that mindset that you talk about. Like this is how we do things, and if you don't do it this way, you're not a real rancher, you're not a real farmer, you're not a real cowboy, you're not a real cowgirl. And I think what I've learned throughout my life experience, because I grew up in it, right? I'm, fifth generation. I was born and bred into a ranching family but then I left it right behind to pursue my TV career. So I really got to see the other side. I got to sort of look at it from the outside, looking in, that outside perspective that completely changed my perspective, right, on the Western community because I very much consider myself a real one and one of them. And, when I tried to step back in after working in TV and living in big cities, I was met with that. Like, who are you? Did you just go buy a cowboy hat at the store? Like, you're not a cowgirl. And so that's really what my whole like mission and Fancy Lady Cowgirl brand is about. And even like going to Australia and host, being a part of these events. I want to bring more people into this industry because I know how special the people are and I know how special the lifestyle is. And I just think that there's so many people in the world that might be missing out on what this community brings to the table and what they represent because we're not always that welcoming.
Yeah, I totally agree. I think that's something that Cole and I feel very passionate about, and that's something that has been at your forefront. You're like a bridge, I find. You're talking about this event in Australia, bringing together people from the racing industry, the cutting industry, and you do that, I think, in every room you step in, and we need more people like that because a lot of people in the Western community, unfortunately, not all of them, but a large number of them seem to be closed-minded and think it's a bad thing when they see someone new wearing a cowboy hat backwards instead of just saying, hey, this is how you wear it. Let me show you and come into our world because you're going to buy horses, you're going to buy cowboy boots, you're going to put your money
Exactly.
into our industry and everybody's going to win. They kind of push them away, which really bothers me and pisses me off. So thank you for the work you're doing. And I just kind of want to understand, you said you were born in a ranch and your whole family comes from ranching. When did you make the decision to go into the big city and to work with TV? And was that a tough decision for you to make?
Yeah, so like I said, grew up on a ranch in Kansas. My grandparents, my aunt and uncle still run the family ranch. My mom and dad run a few cow-calf pairs, but like agriculture was all I knew, right? We spent every single weekend of my childhood. We never took one vacation, maybe one vacation my entire childhood because we were either at a rodeo or a cattle show. So no complaints here. Looking back, what a great way to grow up. And went to college to compete on the rodeo team at Oklahoma State. So I rolled in, to school with a truck, a trailer, 4 horses, 2 goats, like the whole shebang. I
Were
was
you a
that
goat
kid.
tire? Sorry
I
to
was a
Gunslinger.
goat tire. Yeah, I
All
was a goat
right.
tire. So I brought my practice goats. I brought,
How are those knees?
they're rough. They're rough. They're rough. When I wake up in the morning, I'm like trying to ride a cutting horse now. And if I'm on too long, I'm like, oh, everything hurts. But yeah, so went to college and it was actually an internship at Oklahoma State. I was a communications major. I was pretty sure I was going to be a professional barrel racer my whole life. And
Mm.
this was way back before there was even money really in rodeo. So like it was kind of a pipe dream, but I landed an internship at a TV station and I just really fell in love with it. I had this incredible mentor at the station who taught me to do everything, to shoot, to edit, to write, how to tell a really great story, and also how to be how to be a TV host. But I sort of fell in love with it. That's what I wanted to do. I had a company, a Cowboy channel, RFD TV. It wasn't even the Cowboy channel at the time, but they hired me right out of college. I wasn't looking, I was still like working at this station and they called from Nashville and said, hey, we saw this girl, we saw these stories she's doing, like we want to hire her. And Rob, my mentor, was like, go, like this is it. This is
Mm.
how it starts. This is your opportunity. Go. And so I went to Nashville, and that was my first sort of foray into the television and entertainment world. And my first job obviously was rural, right? I was telling rural stories. I was living in a big city, but we were covering, agriculture and rodeos and things in North America. And then I lasted there 1 year. And from that point on, I decided that I wanted to be in mainstream television. I decided that I wanted to be a TV host at the biggest levels. I wanted to be on TV in New York and LA and Dallas. I wanted to be on TV in big markets, right? And I think, this was 15 years ago. So even then, the Western sports, the amount of opportunities were really small. We didn't have the American, we didn't have all of these big sort of things that we're doing now. And so there just weren't a lot of opportunities. And so I decided I'm going to have to go this way. And then there were a lot of voices sort of in the TV industry, like agents and managers and people that I needed to represent me, who took one look at me in a cowboy hat and were like, okay, nobody in New York is going to ever take you seriously. They're never going to look at your tape. No newsroom will hire you. Like, you can't dress like that. Like, you need to either be a little cowgirl, and they would call it like a little cowgirl, or be a TV host. And so I made the decision to sort of leave agriculture behind. And for 10 years, I worked exclusively in mainstream media, biggest cities in, from New York to Nashville to Kansas City to Dallas. I lived in big cities and I worked in TV and I scratched and I clawed my way up just like everybody in the business does. And that's sort of, how that happened. I loved telling stories. I loved working in TV, but I know you've had some experience. It can be a very volatile industry. And so it really burned me out. And eventually I sort of made the decision that like I had to get back to my roots somehow. There had to be some connection because I had really turned my back on it completely, because the people that I was working with sort of influenced me into believing that I should be embarrassed of where I came from, which looking back, is so silly and so small-minded. But I needed that experience. I needed that perspective to be able to look back at where I came from and go, oh, holy cow, like that's the best part of who I am. Not the tired, sad, mean girl that's working in the TV industry trying to survive. It was the girl that I was raised to be is who is special. And so that's kind of the evolution.
Well, I love that just because I'm a big believer that everything's written by the same hand. And it's so crazy. Like looking back, you lived those years, which you got frustrated and you were unhappy, but you had to go through that to become who you are today, to talk
Mhm.
about it with so much truth and so much passion. And as someone that has walked in those shoes, not someone that's just talking about it, that's read it in a book, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And how powerful is your message today, even more powerful because you've lived it. And was there a certain moment that you kind of that was the tipping of it all, like the last straw, or was it just very gradual that you said, no, I need to go back to my roots?
Yeah, I think it was gradually sort of happening behind the scenes. I knew something needed to change because what was happening was I was waking up and I was like, "Ugh, I'm living the dream. Like I have the big job. I'm working it in the network level. I'm working on a syndicated show. Like it doesn't get a whole lot bigger than this, but I was so unhappy. And I was like, why? Okay, this is the dream. Like I've achieved the dream. Why am I not happier? And I think that happens to a lot of us, right? Like
Yeah.
sometimes when you achieve the dream, you realize that that really wasn't the dream at all. And so I sort of was like very unfulfilled and I couldn't really figure out why, but it was actually a story was the turning point. I was working at this syndicated morning news show in Dallas. So national news, you know, we're covering everything that's happening in North America, in the world. And my mom actually called me one morning at work, you know, early, and she said, "Hey, are you guys talking about what's happening in the Midwest?" And I was sort of offended because I was like, first of all, I am the news. I know what's happening everywhere. Nothing's happening in the Midwest because I haven't heard about it. Well, the truth of the matter was, it's what happens a lot of times in rural America, right? It was actually wildfires that were sort of ripping across parts of the Midwest and it was burning down ranches, but it was happening in the flyover states. So the media didn't care, right? It wasn't a news story. And so I pitched the story to my boss and I said, look, you know, it's wiping out decades of genetics. It's wiping out homes. People were dying, and it's wiping out, you know, thousands of head of cattle. This will trickle down, and it could eventually affect the people living in the cities, right at the grocery store. And so I pitched this story to her, and she made fun of it, and she blew it off, and she told me. She reminded me via slamming her finger on the desk in front of the entire newsroom that I was working at a real news network and not to ever bring my little cowgirl problems to her again. That was such a wake up call for me because, yeah, exactly, Cole. That was, you know, I went through
No.
like the range of emotions. I was embarrassed because she made a point of belittling me in front of everyone. And then I was pissed because I was like, these are people I grew up with. I knew people that this was affecting personally. And so I decided to tell the story anyway. And I pulled clips and photos and I reached out to some of the people on social media that were sharing about it. And I just like put together, it was not a high production level. I mean, I just pieced together a story and I posted it on my Facebook page and I didn't have a following, you know, I thought if one person sees this and is impacted by it and learns about what's happening, it's a story worth telling. And I posted that to my Facebook page, and one night it had been viewed 1.5 million times. And I think that was a wake up call for me that maybe the little cowgirl did have a story worth telling. And so the journey is I kept going to the TV station every morning. I would sit in hair and makeup. I would read scripts. I would read the scripts that a producer wrote. You know, I would do the news. And then I would stay after work at the station and use their computer to edit stories about things that were happening in ag that the media wasn't talking about. And I just started sharing them on social media and my following started growing. But what happened to me was I started to realize, oh, maybe this was my calling because I was actually helping people. I wasn't just talking, you know, I wasn't just a talking head on another news network talking about Trump. I mean, I worked, you know, during the first Trump administration, so we covered that a lot. And that's important, right? People, I'm not belittling the people that do the news, but I think for me, I needed more. And so that was sort of my foray back into it. And this went on for almost 2.5 years. I just kept telling stories on Facebook. My following started growing. People started reaching out saying, hey, do you speak? Like, would you be interested in doing a keynote speech? I'm like, yeah, of course. And then I would hang up and I would Google, like, what is a keynote speech? I have no idea. And so like that's how my speaking career was born, simply because I started sharing stories that nobody else was telling.
Frick, I love this. And this is something Felipe and I talk about all the time, niching down. I mean, our stories are so different, but similar in a way. Like when I first started stand-up comedy, it was in my hiatus years of being a team roper, being a cowboy. I just had
Mhm.
burnt myself right out. Kind of got to a point too where I thought I was gonna just be a professional team roper. Got to spend time with an old legend. I'm not gonna name any names. Um, who had the gold buckles, had the stories to tell. But when I was sitting there with him as an 18-year-old kid, he had nothing. The truck he drove to that arena, he didn't own. The horses he rode at that arena, he didn't own. The steers we roped, he didn't own. So I was just like, oh, this is not my path. But then I didn't really know where to go. So when I started stand up, I was going up there more so not like this, essentially, right? But then when I did kind of reach that point to where it's just like, yeah, I'm unhappy. What am I missing? Okay, kind of back to the roots, find the things that help you stay grounded, do all that. Well, then once I kind of was just like, all right, fuck it. This is who I am. That's what I want to do, but this is who I am. I'm just going to do that as me. Well, then
Mhm.
that's when things started to take off. And niching down, even though it may, even though you got, you were told it's your little cowgirl thing, dog, do you know how many people are in this little cowgirl world?
Yeah.
And it proved, right? And then all of a sudden the side hustle became the main hustle. Now you've got I was looking on your website, you've got 2 speeches that you can do and probably more in the arsenal, right? Like it's grown and evolved to something that you never saw coming.
Yeah, I love that perspective. It's so true. Like sometimes when you hone in on something and zero in on something, I actually worked I hired for 2 years, I worked with a brand strategy firm to like really figure out like, how do I grow this? How do I market this? How do I whatever? And I sort of went into it like think my goal was like, how do I take this mainstream? How do I take this cowgirl mess? And that's still something I want to do, but like, how do I take this mainstream? I want to deliver the speeches that you're talking about to mainstream audiences. And I want to teach women from all walks of life to embrace the cowgirl spirit. And, I'm like up there pitching myself in front of this room at this workshop. And the guy who's the head of the company, this master brand builder, he looked at me and he goes, why? And I said, why what? And he goes, why do you want to take this to mainstream audiences? And I said, so it can grow and it can be bigger. And he goes, you're going to grow and get bigger by honing in on the community that you already had and serving them first and serving them better. And he said, then it will grow. So like to your point, it's so true. Like for anyone listening, sometimes you know, zeroing in on something is actually the key to your point, to like really blowing something up. Because I look at the opportunities that this little just mission, you never started out as a business. I had no idea how to turn any of this into a business, right? Like it was just something I was passionate about. But when I started finally just really putting that specific message out in the world, I mean, I've got to go to Australia twice. I've had incredible opportunities. So I agree, Cole.
Yeah, I totally believe in that. Just following your heart. I think all the answers are in us through self-knowledge, like what you were talking about earlier. Like you're unhappy, but why are you unhappy? You're living this dream that you've always thought about, that you thought was your dream and you thought was your Everest. And most people will stay there and continue to get their Starbucks in the morning and continue to do their job and put their head down, fall asleep, wake up the next day, do it all over again, and not listen to that little voice. Very few people will do what you did, which is, hey, something's wrong. I need to face it. I hold the reins to my life. It's going to be tough. It's going to be very tough, but I'm going to pull a full 180. And you did that. And now look at the success you found. Look at everything you're doing. But I want to kind of understand like this process when you made the decision to leave this comfy job that you had, it's as high as you can get as an anchor, and then start a new business. The name, I love the name. Where did the name come from? Like, how did you think of it? And like how was that journey from the moment you said you were going to quit this job to you today traveling to Australia and doing keynote speeches all over the world?
Yeah, so in 2017, the TV show that I was working on in Dallas, they canceled. And it was sort of like we sort of knew, I mean, the writing was on the wall, like, right? So knew it was coming. And I had already made the decision that I was not going to go back to another network. I was like, I was telling the ag stories. I was doing a tiny bit of speaking, maybe like 3 a year, right? Not enough to sustain a life, but I decided I was going to go out on my own and I was going to do independent contract work. Like I would get my own TV gigs, I would do some speaking on the side, and I would live happily ever after. And so I was living in Dallas, and that first year that I was out on my own, I didn't get a single job. And I walked dogs to pay my rent. I walked dogs for all the affluent neighborhoods in Dallas, and I paid my rent by walking dogs for $6 a pop because I wanted to stay here. I didn't want to go back, to home. I wanted to stay in Dallas. I wanted to stay in a city where things were sort of moving and shaking, and I thought that there were opportunities. So it was rough. And one of the hardest parts wasn't the financial side. One of the hardest moments, I remember one day, like walking down the street, and there was this little French bulldog puppy that I would walk regularly, and he didn't walk. So I'm carrying this French bulldog puppy. And I remember walking down the sidewalk in Dallas, and I remember watching the cars drive by. And I remember thinking, I hope nobody drives by that recognizes me, because they're going to look at me and go, is that girl that used to be on TV? And like they were know if it was my, they didn't know I was walking dogs. Like it could have been my dog, whatever. But in that moment, I had to make a mental decision that I was not going to let my job title be my identity. And for a decade, my title, TV host, that was my identity. And I had convinced myself that without that title, I was insignificant. If I wasn't working in TV, if I didn't have the fancy job title, if I wasn't interviewing the famous people, then like I didn't have anything to give to the world. And I remember in that moment walking that dog, and I thought, you know what? This is a season. I'm going to embrace this season. I'm going to sweat. I'm going to pick up dog poop. I'm going to do whatever I got to do to pay my rent. And I'm going to embrace this season because this is going to lead to something. I didn't know what, but I was like, this is going to lead to something. And so I think that was the first thing I had to do. I had to flip sort of my mindset, right? That my job did not define me. And then, yeah, that first year was rough. I eventually got a few like TV, like side gigs, like hosting, like Sotheby's had a project in Houston, and I would go around like neighborhoods and be like, welcome to Houston, just anything I could do to like pay the bills. There was a little bit of speaking, but really Fancy Lady Cowgirl sort of came to a head in 2020. So in January of 2020, I landed my first TV job back in the world of Western sports, and it was a doozy. I had been emailing for 6 months. I had been sending an email once a month to the PBR, and they never responded, And then on month 7, I got an email that said, hey, Courtney, we're actually looking for a host. We're reworking some things for this platform called Ride Pass. Can you fly to Colorado Springs? We want to do an interview. I fly to Colorado Springs, in and out. I interview that day. I come back, and like 2 days later, they called and they said, hey, you're hired. We want to have you it's a test. We're going to test you out, right? For like 3 events or something. You're going to be like the sideline host for Ride Pass for the Professional Bull Riders Unleash the Beast tour. And your first gig is Madison Square Garden. Good luck. And I was like, okay, here we go. Like, let's do this thing. And so, I went to New York, and I was in MSG for 3 nights, a sold out crowd. I mean, and it was the most incredible experience, and it was the absolute dream job. Like, I was in New York, I was on TV, but I was interviewing cowboys, and I was like, this is like heaven sent. It doesn't get any better than this, right? And so I did New York, I did Chicago, I did Bangor. I mean, we went all over the place, and I was like, this is it. This is like the job I've been waiting for 30 years, and that was January of 2020. So in 3 months, there's little pandemic that we thought would last, a week and a half max, hits. And that was the end. I never worked for the PBR again.
Damn.
And so in one day, not just with the PBR, but other contracts that I had, I remember one day getting emails, canceled. And I added up, and in one day I lost $36,000 in contracts. And I was like, oh, I might actually starve to death. Like, this might actually be the moment. Like, there's not even dogs to walk because everybody's home walking their own dogs. Like, this might
The dogs have COVID. Everyone has COVID.
There ain't no dogs to walk because people got to eat the dogs to survive.
Yeah. I mean, it was rough. And I was like,
it
holy cow, what am I going to do? And, and I was devastated because like I lost this, this opportunity with the PBR, but I was home. And I remember sitting in my apartment in Dallas, And I had just sort of started talking about like living in the city, but being a cowgirl. And I just one day I was like, well, I have nothing else going on. So I made the decision. I was like, I am going to actively push this message that being a cowgirl is a state of mind. It's not a job, right? It's the way you live your life. And I'm going to, for the first time, because I really didn't share my story on social media. I wasn't a social media person, really. I'm going to just start putting it out there and see what happens. And that is what I did. I started putting it out there, and Fancy Lady Cowgirl started as a hashtag. I wanted to be the fancy lady that lived in the cities. I mean, because that was the kind of verbiage that people would say, you're too fancy to be a cowgirl. You're just a fancy, you're a fancy lady. You're not a cowgirl. And I was like, no, 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 no. I'm going to be both. I'm going to be a fancy lady and a cowgirl. I'm going to be a fancy lady cowgirl. And here we are today. Nice. So it happened organically. It happened, accidentally in a way. It was a hashtag that I had no idea would turn into a brand.
Dang, that's so cool.
That's awesome.
You got me caught up on the whole season thing when you're walking the dogs and you're in that moment and you are able to consciously recognize like, all right, this ain't me. This is not my end all. I'm a big believer. I'm kind of hippie-ish. I don't know if Philippe told you this or not. Kind of hippie-ish, but like big believer in the reason, season, and a lifetime. And
Yeah.
I guess something that I've been trying to do in my own personal growth is applying things like that, not just to say my roping or my relationships, but all across life. And so I feel like in that moment, you essentially spoke to God, spoke to the universe, and was just like, this ain't me. This is just
Yeah.
right now. And that's all right. There's worse things to be doing than walking a dog. This is a cute dog. And then
Yeah.
rewarded, right?
Yeah.
But then you were put through the trials and tribulations again to deal with adversity shortly after with the whole COVID deal. So, I mean, I know you grew up on the cow-calf operation, and you got to have thick skin and a tough mind to get out there and pull calves in the winter and do what you got to do. So, like, where did you just really tap into your mentality, into your mental game to be like, no, I got this, COVID or not. I just lost 36K in gigs. Like, I guess, what's the question I'm trying to ask here, Felipe? How did you keep it locked down and just keep moving forward? Because that's tough.
Yeah. Yeah. No, it's a great question. I think for me, I had spent 10 years so unhappy. I mean, just, the TV business is such a grind, and it's volatile, and it's hard hours, and, you're only as good as your last story. I mean, they hire and fire like it's just like you're not a human, And so I had just been surviving. I had spent so long just surviving that I think when I finally got out, I was like, you know what? I'm going to make the decision, no matter if it's a high season or a low season. I'm going to make the decision to start living, not just surviving. And it was hard. I don't want people listening to think it's just like something you flip on, flip off, right? Like it took, a lot of inner work to be able to look at that dog and be like, this is not my story. This is a part of my story, but this isn't my story. And one of the phrases that I teach in every keynote that I give, that I fully now live my life by, and I actually stole this from a sermon that my minister in Dallas gave. And I don't even remember what the message was, but I remember he said this and I was like, ooh, that is so good. And so now I always teach this because I look at all the moments in my life that felt like the end, and I realized they weren't the end. Don't confuse the intermission for the finale, right? I thought when I, lost that PBR job, like that was the end. The dream job was gone. There will never be another Madison Square Garden first time experience. Like that is gone. I thought that was the finale. But what I would later realize a few months down the road is that was just an intermission. So I lose that PBR job. I'm like scrapping around trying to find other TV jobs. And I get a message in the middle of the pandemic on Instagram from this girl that I don't know. And she's like, hey, what's up? I saw you on TV with the PBR. And I was like, okay, we raise futurity calves. Would you like to own a bucking bull? And I was like, no, thank you. Sure don't. Like, I could interview guys, but like I didn't know anything about being a stock contractor. So I was like, thanks, no thanks. She says I ghosted her. I don't really remember how the whole story goes down, but the story is, as you probably know, I did eventually become the owner of a bucking bull, and I partnered on
And,
a little.
and an amazing bucking bull,
Yeah, I
top
got.
dollar, one of
Yeah,
the
yeah.
best.
I got, somebody just asked me last night, actually the cutting horse trainer, he's like, so like how did you know when you partnered on this bull that like he was a great one? I was like, I went and looked at this bull and he had 4 legs. And I was like, well, looks good to me. Katie and Laramie fully knew what they were doing. Laramie absolutely knew what he had. And their big thing was when I asked them, I said, why me? Like, why do you want to? And they said, we want to show that we want to show that people from all walks of life can be a part of the bull industry. And I was like, I'm sold. And their only ask of me was that I helped share the story of my journey. And boy, did we do that, and Top Dollar made it easy, right? Because yes, he's good, but also because he's a huge personality and is the star of his own show. But that's a perfect example. Something that I thought was the finale was really just an intermission that was leading to something even more amazing than I could have ever imagined.
Yeah, I love that. I'm a big believer in that. Like I've had moments in my life as well where I just word it differently. To me, it's like they're transitional moments and you feel like the world's falling apart. And when you're in it, at that micro level, you think your world is over. But when you look at it, 10 years later, 5 years later, you realize it was just a transitional moment and everything was going to be okay. You're just taking a turn down the road. But Top Dollar, I think it's so interesting to hear you talk about how it came together. And the bull itself is a lot like you, right? Because he loves to be petted on. He's fancy, but then he gets out there and he's a goddamn man eater. And
Yeah.
I think 93% buck off.
Yeah.
Just
Whoa.
unbelievable. But you have given this bull a face, and it's almost like a person, right? It's a social media star, 40,000 plus followers. He's got tons of videos out. He's got a voice. I'm interested to know who does the voice because I think the voice is so funny. Is it you?
Yeah.
Oh, can you do the
I re-
voice? Can you do the voice?
the first time I literally like sit in my apartment and I voice them on my phone and then I put them like through the TikTok thing. But I
Wait,
remember
is that a $10
Yeah, was that
Canadian?
Canadian or
Is
was
that a
that Australian
Canadian
money?
bill right there?
Australian.
Okay.
Yeah, I had it in my phone case from when I was there and I just haven't taken it out.
That's so
That's cool.
funny.
Yeah, no, I do the voices. So the voice thing, I don't know. I just one day was like, and a bunch of people like we had not a bunch, but we had a few people that were like, that's not Top Dollar's voice. It would be he's manly and tough. I'm like, you've obviously never met him because that is 100% his way. Like, hey guys. And I remember the first one I did. I don't know what Laramie said or somebody. Oh, in an interview we did CBS Sports did a feature on us, and Laramie's he lets Katie and I like video and tell the story and do all the things. And he said something in that CBS interview along the lines of, yeah, sometimes I'm not sure, when the voice came out, I was a little like, but people love it, and Laramie is so smart and he totally understands that it's a brand and we're growing it and it brings people in. But yeah, but no, that's 100% Top Dollar. And Katie and I are convinced that those are exactly the things that he's thinking. And so, yeah, I just voice them and put
All
that
right,
voice.
give us the voice. Give us the voice. Give us a
Well,
little something.
it's a TikTok generated. So I just
Oh,
record it in my like regular voice.
Oh,
And then I put
damn.
the TikTok like filter on. There's all
Oh,
kinds of like, there's like manly ones, feminine, I think his is like the robot one, but yeah, now he's stuck with it. That is officially Top Dollar's voice. So
oh my God, I love it. I love it.
yeah.
I love the videos. I think they're so funny. And like I said, it's just we've been so good for so many years that I say this all the time. I'm talking within the fence posts, like, within ourselves, we know we're great to these animals and how much we love them and how much passion we have. But now through initiatives like this, for instance, you're able to show that to a kid that lives in New York or in São Paulo or in a city that may have never been around the bull. And someone's told them that we tied the testicles together and they're going to believe that for the rest of their lives. But all of a sudden now they're learning about the sport in a whole different way. Do you have like knowledge like of how important you're being to the Western industry? Like, are there examples of people writing to you, reaching out to you? Like, does that hit home or do you not really understand the scope of it?
Yeah, I think so. I think so. I think It's hard when it's you. And like it's hard. I have women will come up to me a lot and they're like, you changed my life. And I'm like, did I? Like, did I? Are you sure? It's hard for me because it's me, right? So like I don't know. So to answer your question, no. I don't think I fully understand the scope of it, but I do really appreciate and value when people come up and say that, I've encouraged them to wear the cowboy hat or to step into the industry or top dollar. Like, I mean, he's a beautiful example of like authenticity, right? Like we show everything. I'm down in the chute with a camera, trying not to get killed, videoing so that people can see we're not tying up their testicles, so that they can see what's going through his mind, what's the look on his face, how's the cowboy, what do the cowboy spurs look like, everything. We've shown everything. And I think, on one of the broadcasts earlier this year or late last year, Cord McCoy, top dollar comes in the shoot or whatever. And he's like, yeah, this is a great bull, blah, blah, blah. He's like, I just got back from a hunting trip in South Africa and I was trying to explain to them that, I'm a stock contractor. So like I have bucking bulls. Like, you probably don't know what that is. And he's and he goes, they said, no, 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 no. We know top dollar. And he goes, there was only one bull they knew and it was top
No
dollar. And
way.
I think that's a beautiful example of the power of just telling the story, right? Just putting the story on social media. And I think that that's really cool. And, I go to Australia and people are like, oh my God, the Fancy Lady Cowgirl. And I'm like, oh, did you like see the program like at the local store? Is that how you know who I am? They're like, no, 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 we follow you. And yeah, I think it's wild. I mean, I think, social media has its downfalls for sure, but I think there is a lot of power in it. And it has brought people into my life that I never would have been able to connect with without it. And so, yeah, I think it's cool. I hope that it's making a difference. But the beauty is it's such a passion of mine that even if I'm not getting, that feedback, which I am, but if I wasn't, I would still be putting that message out there because I believe in it so deeply.
That's awesome.
That's huge. Question and curious just about your days at the network. I know it's so hustle bustle, cutthroat. You got to
Yeah.
fight to survive, but like, what are some of the things that you really miss about that day to day? Like, when they're counting you down 3, 2, 1, and now it's all on your shoulders. Like, what are some of those things that you miss about that day to day grind?
Yeah, that's a great question. Live TV is like a drug. I mean, it's a rush, right? And when you're standing in a newsroom or when you're standing in somewhere like Madison Square Garden and you've got like a crowd roaring, your face is on the, Jumbotron, you're also live in people's homes and they're 5, 4, and you just are on, like there's no feeling like that. And I still get to do a little bit of that. Like I do the Triple Crown shows for the National Cutting Horse Association, which has been incredible. And I love, 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 love working with them. And so I still get a little bit of that. But yeah, I think that rush, now I'm just finding it in different ways. Like I've got a cutting horse, I'm finding that sort of adrenaline in other places. But it is, I mean, if you've ever done, live TV, it's such an adrenaline rush. And you're just in it. You have to just be so on and you have to be so in it. And you've got 5 people talking to your ear while you're talking to someone else, doing an interview, trying to, and I think that's what I love. Maybe one of the things I miss because I still get to tell the stories, I'm still telling stories sort of in my own way. But I do miss that rush.
That controlled chaos, hey, just
Oh,
in the
completely.
moment. Yeah.
Completely controlled chaos. Like you're talking about some very serious thing that's happened in the world and there's just, screaming and screaming and things going on in your ear because, shit's falling apart in the control room or a package won't run or the mics are cutting out, and you just have to roll with it. Or you've got a guest that's off the rails and, your producer's like, wrap them up, get them out of there. It's just that, yeah, it's hard. It's hard to find that in other places. But I will say, interviewing cowboys, you never know what you're going to get, which I do love. There's a few of them that I'm like, oh, this is good. We're either going to make great TV or we're both going to get fired. There's no in between. Let's go.
Ben Anderson.
There's a few loose cannons and I love it. It's fun.
Yeah,
That's
boys.
so funny. Keeps it interesting, right? The adrenaline.
Yeah.
But I'm interested. You've dropped the cutting horse, a couple times. You're very connected to the NCHA. You're in Australia for that, and all over the US. Your family, they've been in the cutting for a long time. Is that correct?
A little bit. So my mom had a cutting horse when she was little.
P.S. One sec. Your mom, you've been cloned out of your mother. I
Oh,
saw
how
like a
funny.
YouTube video. I was like, is that her? Is that her? I'm like, what's happening? It's your
Oh,
mom.
okay.
Like, you
That's
girls look
so
so much alike. That's
That's
awesome.
so funny. People are always like, "Are you sisters?" And I'm like, "No, she's much older than me. I'm the
Yeah,
daughter.
and
Thank
she's
you."
loving it. She's like,
And then, oh yeah,
no.
she's like, yeah. I'm like, don't encourage it, mom. Yeah. So my mom had a cutting horse, briefly when she was young, and then she got hurt, and then we didn't do it. I didn't cut in high school. My little sister got a cutting horse. My sister's 7 years younger, so she cut in high school. So I sort of got to be around it and see it, but it was just, I was doing all the other things. I was roping, I was tying goats, I was running barrels. It wasn't something that I did. And then my sister did it, enjoyed it, loved watching it. And then my mom got a horse. And so I was like, okay, well, mom has a horse. So this is fun. And to be honest, the cutting industry, I mean, the horse industry in general is not a cheap industry. And so I still live in the city. I really, really didn't know if I would ever have the opportunity to own a horse again. I mean, it just really didn't seem realistic, and it really didn't seem feasible. I've been working with the National Cutting Horse Association for about 4 years. It started with nothing more than me like, congratulations, you're the open world champion. How does that make you feel? Boom, that was it. Like that was all I did for them. And then thanks to their incredible team, they've got this incredible video production company that they work with, Plugged In Creative. We just slowly, like I did the interviews that first year, and I thought, I can do more. Like, would you guys like, what if we did this, or what if we did some social media, or what if we, and CHA, they're great because they're like trying to build and they get it. And so we just slowly started growing it, into what it is today. And, the maturity last year, I mean, it was the first time like we had replay even. I mean, it was so badass. It looked so good. Everybody did such a great job. And so it's always me as the host and then a trainer. So the trainer really does the commentary, and I'm sort of just there to help guide it along. But it's been a lot of fun. But I will say, standing at those Triple Crown shows, watching the open finals over and over and over and over and over again, you start to think, man, this is really fun to be up here in the broadcast booth, but like, I would like to know what it's like to be down there someday, right? And so I just watched these guys and dream. I mean, it was such a pipe dream. And then this year, I was standing at the World Finals. I think I was coming back up the stairs from the pen because I had done an interview, and I saw a couple of the trainers that I knew, and they were like, "How's it going? What are you doing?" I was like, "Oh, just doing the interviews." And I sort of like nudged them, and I was like, "Yeah, someday one of these days I'm going to buy one of these suckers," thinking there's no way in hell I'll And I remember Gavin and G sort of looked at me and they're like, "Oh, well, we've got one." And I was like, "Oh, well, I'm sure you do. Like everybody's got a horse for sale." I'm like, what do you want? 200, 250? Like this is not my wheelhouse, And but they were like, come out and try this horse. I'm like, okay. And I told them, I said, "Here's my budget," figuring they would both walk away with laughter and their tears running down their face. And they're like, "Okay, well, we'll let you know. Like, we've got someone to come in to try him Monday. But if they don't take him, like maybe you could just come out and try this horse." I don't know anything about this horse. G was riding at the World Finals. And so he showed me his run. Horse looks great. I don't know. Again, like I know just enough to be dangerous. And so I don't hear from them. Like I'm going back and forth to the show, and I'm like, you know what? No big deal. Wasn't meant to be. Wasn't meant to be. Like, I don't hear from them. I assume they sold the horse. And then like 7 days later, Gavin texts me and he's like, "So you going to come try this horse or what?" And I'm like, "Oh, okay." And so I'm like, you know what? It doesn't hurt to try the horse. Like, I'll just go out and try the horse. I don't have to buy the horse. Maybe it won't be a
Big
fit.
mistake. Big
Huge mistake.
mistake.
Huge mistake. And so I go out, I try this horse, and I tell G, my trainer, Gildo, now I'm like, "Dude, G, like I tried this horse, he felt good, but like I have nothing to compare it to." It was like top dollar. I'm like, "Yeah, he's got 4 legs. Surely he can buck." I don't know. This cute little roan horse, this metallic rebel. I'm like, okay. And I knew the minute I pulled out of that place, I was going to buy that horse. But I was like, this is a very serious decision.
Poker face, poker
I'm
face.
going to take several days to think about this. If you sell him in the meantime, you show him, you sell him, you do whatever you need to do. I already knew I was going to buy this horse. So anyway, I buy this little horse named Bucket, and it has been so, 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 so fun. And I ended up with this just incredible Italian trainer who is out, started his program. He's got his program going out on his own this year. And it's been so fun because together, he really wants me to do well. And he spends so much time teaching me. And, I think sometimes you can get into some of these, bigger programs and you're just sort of a number. But G has spent a lot of time and he trained the horse, so it's like, he knows the horse, he showed the horse at the finals. So I'm learning. Sometimes I'm really good. And then other times I act like a real amateur. And I'm like, why did I do that? And all the trainers are like, yeah, nobody knows. We were also wondering why you did that, but it's been a lot of fun.
How many times does your trainer do this to you?
Not very often. There is sometimes, yeah, sometimes there's some Italian that gets thrown in there, and I just ride around in bliss because I'm like, I don't know what they're saying, so I'm just gonna keep doing what I'm doing. But it's been a lot of fun. My first weekend, I went to 2 shows, so my first 2 shows ever, and it was so great. I was like, oh my God, I'm a cutter. I won checks in every class I was in. And I was like, oh my God, who knew I was going to be so good at this? And then the next 4 shows I went to, I did every stupid thing, like just everything that could go wrong, I did. And it wasn't my horse. My horse was perfect. It was definitely the rider. So
Kind of like a team roper.
yeah, I've been deeply humbled. After my first weekend, I remember I like walk into the barn, I got my check, I'm like riding my horse and they're all just giving me that like, oh, it's coming. And I'm like, you know what, you assholes, like maybe I'm just going to be great all the time. They're like, oh, it's coming. It's coming. And sure enough, I have done a lot of stupid stuff in the pen, but it's been fun.
Oh man, maybe go ahead, go.
That's just what I love about riding horses is
Yeah.
they humble you, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
They're your best
That's
friend, they're
exactly
your
what I was gonna
brother, they're
say.
your sister, but they're just like, oh, you showed up with a different size cowboy hat. Well, we'll fix that.
Yeah, yeah, for sure, for sure. And honestly, like I always say, I'm like, well, my horse is perfect, but it's definitely, I feed him a lot of cookies because I feel bad. Because like sometimes you can literally see his little face out there, like in the show, and you can just tell he's like, I'm not sure why she's asking me to do that, but I guess we'll go ahead and do it, even though I know that we're probably not supposed to be doing, I'm just this poor person.
Good
Yeah,
old bucket. Good old
good old
bucket, eh?
bucket. Yeah.
Okay, you've done like so many freaking things in your life, but there's one that makes no sense to me, and I want to make sure that it wasn't like an error that it's supposed to be someone else credited and it's you.
Oh.
What do you have to do with the TV series Queen of the South?
Oh, yeah. I was on that.
Yeah,
Totally.
what?
Yeah, so that was actually sort of during that transition. So when I left, when the TV show ended, I had an agent here in Dallas, a local agent. I had an agent in New York, and then I had an agent here in Dallas. And so Queen of the South, actually, that season 3 they shot in Dallas. And so my agent called and he was like, hey, like there's this audition for this show. I've never heard of this show. I'm like, I don't know what this is. Luckily, for some reason, I Googled it before I went to the audition, which I never do. Like I never prepare for an audition. I just show up. But for some reason, I decided to prepare for this one. And I watched the whole first season and I was like, oh, this is like a real show. This is like a real
Yeah.
TV show. This is good. And I went in, I mean, I was totally typecast. I went in and I read for the role of journalist number one, which like wasn't hard. And I'm convinced that I got the job because I memorized the script. And so I went in and, most of the time, like you read, you do a read and like you read back and forth. And I just like walked in with nothing. And she's like, did you forget your script? And I was like, no. And she's like, okay. And so she started reading and I just started doing it back. And yeah, so anyway, I land this role. It's not even a role. I don't know, this appearance. And I was so clueless, you guys. I show up to this set. I've never been on a set. Like I've never been on a show set like this, like a scripted series. So I have no idea what to expect. So I like show up and I'm like, hi, like I'm here for the journalist one. And they're like, oh, okay, okay. And there's like all this like radio talk, and like all the extras are just like in a tent on the grass. And so I was like, I'll just like go wait with the extra. And they're like, no. I'm like, okay. And then I was like, maybe my agent sent me on the wrong day. I was like, maybe I didn't really get the role. This is embarrassing. And they're like, ma'am, we're gonna need you to wait right here. I'm like, okay. And this girl like comes running up. She's like, get in my golf cart. She zooms me to my trailer. And I'm like, oh my God, I have a trailer. So I like sit in my trailer, do the whole thing. I go into hair and makeup, and Veronica, the woman who played the main character, walks in, and I'm like, oh my God, like that's the lady from the show. I don't know who I thought was going to be there.
Of course, her name is Veronica, though. Like, here comes
Yeah.
in Veronica.
Yeah. She plays the queen pin, right, of the Mexican drug cartel. And she walks in and she plays. I mean, have you seen the show, either of you?
Oh, I've seen it. Yeah,
Yeah, so
Clayton and I got
her
into it,
character, right? Her character's
Yeah.
scary as shit.
Bad
And
to
so
the
she
bone.
walks in and she's like, hi, Courtney, it's so nice to meet you. And like, I'm like, why is this lady talking to me? Like, she's famous. Oh my God. She's like, do you want to run lines? And I'm like, I don't even know what that means, but sure. And so we like get in the car to go do like blocking, and they're driving us over to set. And so her and I are running lines, and she's so nice and so friendly, and it's so wonderful. And we walk into this set, and I'm like, oh, they think that I know what I'm doing, and I don't. I have no idea what I'm doing. And they sit us down to like do the blocking, and they're like, well, let's run through it. And I'm like, okay. And they do the whole action, and I have the first line. And there's this moment where I'm like, am I supposed to, should I go?
What's the line? What's the line? Give it to us. What's that first line?
Yeah. And so I'm like, oh my God. But I remember she like sits down, she's got slippers on, but I don't know why I remember this. She's got her fuzzy slippers on because we're like not dressed yet. And she's just like, she's got her Diet Coke. She's like shooting the shit. And they're like, okay, everybody stand by. And she looks down at the ground, and she looks up, and she is in full. And I'm like, oh my, like full character. And I'm like, oh shit, this lady is, and she has that, she's got that voice, and she goes into that voice. And I just remember sitting there thinking, I am so out of my like element here. So anyway, we do that. We come back, we go to shoot it, and we shoot it. I nail it. I'm like, fuck, I'm an actress. Like, who knew I'm an actress? So it takes like 10 minutes. I'm like, oh my God, acting is so easy. Why have I not done this? I could make a living at this. And so I get up and I'm like, thank you. It was so good to see you. It was so lovely to meet you. And they're all kind of like looking at me. I didn't realize we had to do it another 49 times. I was leaving. And they're like, ma'am, no, we're just going to have you sit over here. Like, just sit, do you need anything? And I'm like, what the fuck is happening? But yeah, that was my TV experience. I had, I don't know, maybe 4 whole lines. It was my claim to fame.
Hurry up and wait. That's what that industry is all about.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. Cause I come from live TV, right? So I'm like in and out.
Yeah.
They're like, I think I was on set 12, 13 hours, and I had come from the TV station. So I was going on like 24 hours by the time we finally wrapped. Yeah,
it's like nursing hours. That's so funny because I saw that and I was like, this makes no sense. I'm like, why is this on IMDb? Like, I thought, when they like there's someone with the same name as you, and it might have been that person. That's awesome.
Yeah, it was fun. But that was the beginning and the ending of my acting career. So there we go.
Well, not a bad way to start and stop. That's pretty sweet.
Yeah.
Random question. Have you ever been arrested?
No. I've never really been close. We did some stuff. Okay, I will say we had a lot of fun in college. I mean, we had a lot of fun in college.
Yeah, I bet you're a nanny slammer.
Yeah, but we did stuff in college that like nowadays you might be taken to jail for, but we didn't hurt anybody. We didn't, nobody was injured. Nobody was harmed in a way that they would never recover from, but we definitely drank a lot of whiskey and we had a lot of fun.
Fun story. Our last guest got arrested in college dressed as a Smurf.
And she was also a goat tire.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
I love it. We, one of our like legendary stories at Oklahoma State. So I was a goat tire. I had a lot of friends who showed cattle that came to Oklahoma State as well. And my good friend Brittany. So my 21st birthday was on the Saturday of homecoming at Oklahoma State. Oklahoma State has the biggest homecoming in the country. It's like a world famous, huge party, football game. So I turned 21 that night. So Stillwater is pumping. And we go into the bars all night. I mean, we're drinking all night. I go into the bar all night with my fake ID, one of my several fake IDs. And so midnight hits, and Brittany is like, everybody to the parking lot. Courtney's gifts in the parking lot. I'm like, okay. And we're drunk at this point. And so we go out there, and she opens her truck bed, and she has a billy goat tied to the ball of her truck bed, like a wild one. And she's tied him with a neck rope that you would use on like a show steer. And she grabs this, and he smells, oh my God. She grabs this goat, and she goes, to the bar, and off we go. And we go into the bar. So we get to the door, and we're all trying, I use my real ID because now I'm 21. So the door guy's like, really? Like, I'm like, I'm 21.
Change names.
Yeah. I'm like, you can't not let me in. This is actually me. So like, you have to let me in now. And one of the guys on the rodeo team, just under his arm, had this billy goat, and we sort of all just like went in at once. And and it's full. I mean, the bar is full because it's homecoming. And they set this goat on the bar, and they slam their hand on the bar, and it just is like silence. Like you could hear a pin drop in this place. And I just hear somebody scream, get this effing goat a beer. And I mean, the bouncers come running in, the bartender is screaming. We know the lady who owns the bar. All hell breaks loose, and we get kicked out. And so it's like this whole thing. Anyway, this goat lived in Brittany's backyard and like went to house parties for 6 months. But like years later, we're at a cattle show, and the girl who owns this bar is there. She's like, you little shits, I didn't know that was you. We're like, yeah, that was us. Well, unbeknownst to us, when we put the goat on the bar, it had shit, and it had rolled into the ice machine that the bar used. So for the rest of the night of homecoming, they didn't have any ice because the goat had shit. So we're so drunk, we don't even know this has happened. And she's like, you guys, the biggest night, money earning night of the bar of the year, and you put this goat on the bar, it shits in our ice tank. We don't have ice the rest of the night. We can't make half the drinks we're trying to serve. And this bar is like famous for these like big ices. They're literally called ices, and like they
God.
So anyway, nowadays we probably could have been arrested for that, but it was harmless fun.
That is so good.
You go
That's
shit
Oklahoma if I've ever heard it.
It's so Oklahoma. It's so Oklahoma.
That is the most Oklahoma story ever. Wow.
Yeah,
That is that's a good one. I don't know where else we can go from here, kids.
Yeah,
I think,
that's just freaking pure gold right there. That's probably the best story.
I think that's the best story I've heard all night. I'm going to update your IMDb. I'm going to update all your social media. Court, we can't thank you enough for being here. And our podcast is called Should Have Been a Cowboy. So at the end of every episode, this is going to be a tough question for you. If they're cowboys or cowgirls, we ask them, what would you be if you weren't living this lifestyle? And if they're not, we ask them, what kind of cowboy or cowgirl would you be? Would you be a tie-down roper or a goat tire, or would you be out ranching? So I'm going to ask you, you're both, like, you wear both hats. You're fancy cowgirl, like, but if you weren't a cowgirl, what would you think you'd be doing out there?
Oh my gosh, if I wasn't a cowgirl, what would I be doing? I mean, I can't really imagine any other life, but this is so random, and I'm not even good at this, but I would be a surfer, and I would be a surf girl, and I would live on the beach, and I would surf. I think there's just something, I'm a terrible surfer. I grew up in Kansas, like it's like don't drown situation, but I just always have been obsessed with surf culture. And I think there's something about that culture that's similar to cowboy culture. They're both like very tight knit communities. And I don't know, I've just always been attracted to it. And I'm like, well, if I didn't ride horses, I'd probably just live on the beach and be a surfer. So.
Well, when you were walking dogs in COVID, trying to get it figured out, I was literally locked down in Guatemala on a surf trip when all that hit. Like, I couldn't agree more. The discipline it takes. I reverted back to even team roping and stuff, the timing that you need and the positioning that you need to catch waves properly and put yourself in a good position to where you're not just going to get absolutely washing machine to the bottom of the ocean. And then the people are incredible too. Exactly.
Yeah. I just think it's cool. I think I would have been, maybe if I had started a little earlier, I might be better. I'm not at all, but I do enjoy it.
Do we need to do a cowboy cowgirl surf trip here?
Hey,
Gets
I'm
a squad to
available.
the beach.
Well, I don't know. You might want to
Let's
see me surf
go.
before you invite me on a surf trip because like I said, it's more of a don't drown trip, but I'm
No one's
available.
judging. No one's judging here. Let's go. I'd be so down. That was literally what Cowboy Cole and I, that was our answers to that
Hmm.
question. And yeah, so many parallels, very humbling as well, right? You're
Yep.
getting pounded the whole freaking
Oh
day, but
yeah, just
you
beat
got to
to
get
death.
back on your board and you're in nature. I think that's one
Yeah.
of the biggest things. Cowboys and cowgirls, we love being connected to nature. That's why we love these animals. And if you can't see God through a horse and riding through the woods, a mountain, crossing a river, then I don't know where you're gonna find God. So yeah, and I think surfing's the same way, right? Well, Court, thank you so much. Surfer girl, fancy surfer girl, Court. New slogan coming at you in
I love it.
2026. Thank you so much for being a part of this, and thank you for everything you're doing for Western Heritage. Whatever you need from us, we're backing you. We got you. Just give us a call, and we'll be there
Yeah.
with you.
Yeah, thank you for having me and thank you for what you guys are doing as well. We need you, so I appreciate it.
You got it. Thanks so much, Courtney.
Thank you
We
so
talk to you
much.
soon.
Yeah, bye guys.
Bye bye.
Bye. Have a great day.
Whoa, dude. What a cool lady.
The Hoff. The Hoff.
The
Yeah, she's
Huff.
awesome.
Yeah, man.
Yeah,
I can't
man.
get over that. What that freaking OSU story with the goat, man. That's
Oh,
probably
so
been the
good.
best story told on the pod so
When
far.
when those words first left your mouth, I was a little worried. I'm like, have you ever been arrested before? I'm like, where did this just come from? Like, what led him into this
I was like,
question?
well, go tire, go
But
tire.
yeah, exactly.
Dude,
But
Rave used to be a
honestly,
goat tire. She was wild.
that's the best question ever. Go tires are wild. Best question ever. Gave us a great answer. So funny. The goat shit in the ice bucket. That's so good. So good. I died.
A little bit of oaky flavoring right there, eh, bud?
But man, what a great story! What a great story! Just a force to be reckoned with. Loved Courtney's story. I knew it, but I mean, it's amazing going into these deep dives because you find out things you never even imagined. You learn new facts about these people and everyone we've had on. They've been such a like so inspirational, right? Their stories.
Hmm. Yeah, absolutely, man. Because she said it. I mean, it can't be easy to look people in the face and say, "Yeah, I turned my back on how I grew up for 10 years to pursue what I thought it was I wanted." And at the time, that's okay that that's what you want. That's okay. You
Exactly.
can't beat yourself up about that because you are going to reach that turning point to course correct or, go down the path you're supposed to go. And man, that's just the cowboy ways. Every day, get up,
Exactly.
saddle ride, right? Like just
And
keep moving
yeah.
forward.
And that experience that she had turning her back, if we can put it that way, on Egg for a little bit there, made her so important for Egg now, you know what I mean?
Hmm.
Because now she can talk about it in a different manner. Whereas if she had stayed at the ranch her whole life, she wouldn't have had the experiences that she uses today to motivate people, to inspire people. So I thought that was really cool about her story. And I also really love the story about walking that dog and picking up the dog shit because we've all been there, man. You reach
Hmm.
a certain moment of your life where you think, hey, it's all going to be smooth sailing from here. And sometimes you got to have the humility to take 60 steps back and pick up dog shit. And how human is that to wonder, man, I hope no one sees me doing this because guess what? It's embarrassing. You know what I mean?
Yeah, man. And honestly, if more people would stop and take the time to pick up their dog's shit, this world would be a lot better place, dude. Because that is the smallest discipline at the end of the day. If you got to, like,
Yeah.
yeah, I like the living on a ranch to where the corgi can just go shit on the lawn. I can get a shovel, throw it in the trees. That's
Yeah.
great. But when you're in the freaking city, dude, you got to pick up that dog shit. And if you're too lazy to pick up that single little plop of dog shit, what else are you letting slide by in your life? Think
100%.
on that one.
Thing on that one. Let's make that shirt. Let's make that bumper sticker. Let's make that shirt. Let's
Pick up
start
dog
start a
shit
new
or
brand.
your shit.
FancyDogShitPickers.com. I think that's what we got out of this episode. No, 100%, bro. I totally believe in what you're
Yeah.
saying, and just having the humility to do it, to just say this is a stage in my life. What is it? A season? This is a season of my
Hmm.
life. It's gonna make me better. It's gonna make me stronger. I need to pay my bills, and guess what? No job is bigger than me. You know what I mean? And I think that was a very telling moment of the podcast for me. And I've had those moments in my life. I know I have, and they were tough because you're like, damn, like I'm not supposed to be out here picking this dog shit. But guess what? You're tucking your hat down and you're getting it done because that's what you need to do. And that's what being a cowboy is all about.
Amen to that, my brother. And with that being said, thank you guys for tuning in. Courtenay Dehoff, check her out on Instagram, check out her merch. She's got a really, really nice website that breaks down everything she does from her network career to her public speaking. So please go check that out, everybody. And stay tuned for more episodes of Shoulda Been a Cowboy.
Yeah.